Morning. Learning as a schus for Shlema Filan Chaya Baserach. We're in Daf Samach Beis Amud Beis, 4 lines to the top, from the top. Amar Abaye, Bar Huna Amar Rav Chama Bar Guria, Gzirin She'asa Moshe. The blocks of wood that Moshe made. Rashi says, Gzirin Shnei Gizri Eitzim Tzarech L'Sada B'Rosh HaMizbeach HaMaracha. Underneath the maracha. That means the maracha is where they would pile up wood to burn, but there were two specific blocks of wood that were put there. The one was put by the Talmud Shel Shachar, and one was put by the Talmud Shel Bein Harabayim. He says these blocks of wood, Archan Amma, the Gemara says, was a length of an amma, and a width of an amma, and its thickness was like a level that was used to level the top of a saw container. They would make a heaping saw, and then they would take a level to smooth it out. That was whatever thickness that was. Amar Rav Yirmiyah ba'ama geduma. Rav Yirmiyah says that which he said that the length and width was one amma was a shortened amma. And Rashi explains, he says it must have been shortened, because otherwise we would be worried that it would go out of the wood pile that they're burning the. If you remember we had that whole pshat that there was it was 5 by 5, so you have the outside. One amma was with the Karen, then the next amma was the walkway, and then there was only one amma left. So he said if it would be an exact amma, the size of this gzirin, it would inevitably at some point go over the line and get into the walkway where the Kehanim were walking. If it was only one amma by one amma, you can't have a one amma by one amma piece of wood to burn because it's going to go over. So Rashi says, amma geduma. So this we said it had to be a smaller amma, katsara, a shorter amma. It'll stop them from walking. Rav Yosef. So the Gemara says, Rav Yosef, we already have a brisa that says that the eitzim would be on the eish that's on the mizbech, which tells you shelo eitzim yotzim min hamizbech klum. Tell you that the problem was that the eitzim shouldn't go out of mizbeach. So if the issue was that the eitzim going out of the mizbeach, you don't have to worry about an amma keduma or an amma katsara. Even if it was a full amma, it's not coming anywhere close to going off the mizbeach. So he says it must have been. He says he disagrees. He says it was a regular amma. Tanan Hasan. Now we're going to get a little bit into architecture. So let's remind ourselves, right, of what the general situation was in the Beis HaMikdash. Let's say this is the Mizbeach. The Mizbeach was square, right? And this is the entrance to the Azara, and this is the entrance to the Heichel, right? You came into the Beis HaMikdash here, out there, this is the west, this is the east, this is the north, and this is the south. So the keves was on this side, on the Durham, coming out of the side of the Mizbeach over here. It was 32 long by 16 wide. So the 16 wide was not quite as wide as the Mizbeach itself, right? The Mizbeach was either 20 or 32, 28, 32. Whatever, we'll see exactly what it was. Zohar was 28. Was expanded to 32, right? In the second Beis HaMikdash. In either case. But the width of in either case, the width of the ramp was less than the width of the Mizbeach. Where do we know this from? That's where the keves was. The way the Torah describes, it says you should shecht al yerach hamizbeach tzafayna. Sheyeh yerach b'tzafon upanav bedarim. It tells you that the yerach, which is where you shech the animals, we said is betzafen, you shecht it by the yerach, and that means the panav, the face, should be bedarim. And the Gemara is understanding panav and darim, the panav and yerach is two opposite sides, right? A person's yerach is his feet, his thighs, and his panav is his face. So if a person lies down, his feet are on one side, his face is on the other. So since the tzafan where you shech the karbanis is over here, it means the yerach, the yerach is over here. That means the panav, the face of the mizbech, for some reason, the Gemara believes, I guess it makes sense, that the entrance to the mizbech is the ramp. So the ramp is considered the panav, like we say, al pnei al mayit always means by the entrance to the almayit. So a panav is the entrance to the mizbech, and that's the ramp. So that's on the opposite side of the yerach. So we said this is the sequence. Yerach, we know that you shecht on the north, on this side, and that's called yerach. And we say yerach is opposite of panav, and the panav is the place that you go on to the mizbech, so that's on the southern side. The Gemara, Ema yerach betzafen upanav betzafen. The Gemara says, how do you know that it means they're opposite sides? Maybe both of them are on the same side, that you shechted on the tzafin, and you also the face, meaning where the keves is, where the ramp is also on the north side. Amarava Rami Gavra Ape. He says, no, we don't put a person, when we say that a yerach and panav, it means a person lying on his face, which means his feet and his face are on opposite sides. Maybe we could talk about a person who's sitting down, and a person who's sitting down, his feet and his face are both facing the same way. Why do you know you're talking about it like we talk about panav and yerach? It means a person lying down. Maybe it means a person sitting. Amalei Ravua Ksiv. He says, the Torah says about the Mizbech Ravua, and that means Ravua, we darshan it to mean like Ravot, like a person who's crouching down or lying down. So the correct way of interpreting Yerach and Panav is as someone lying down with the Panav and the Yerach on opposite sides. So therefore, the Keves is on the southern side, opposite of the Yerach. But Mibaile de Marbarivuyi, how can you say from Ravua, it's telling you the person that we're referring to, who's sitting in the person who's sitting that we're trying to determine where the keves and the shchitas of the karbanos are, is coming from the lashon of Ravua, which means ravutz and lying down. But we need that word to tell you that it has to be in a square sides. So miksiv meruba doesn't say meruba; it says ravua. Miksiv ravutz. Ravua doesn't mean ravutz. Your darshaning means ravutz. So why are you saying that it doesn't say meruba, which would be the proper way to say squared off? He says, no, that's what I mean to say. It says ravua, which is not precisely the lashon you use if you're trying to say squared off. It's also not precisely the lashon that you would use to tell you like crouching down or lying down. So since it says a lashon that's mashma both, not mashma either one, we say it's mashma both of them. It's not precisely on point for either one, so you're able to darshan both. The Tana Ma'aseh Lemehacha. Another Tana brings it from a different source. The Tana of Yehudaim. Mali Yosayu Panis Kadam. Its steps or its way of getting up are facing what is Kadam? East, yeah. Kol Pinas. Sha'ata Paina Leyu Elo Derech Yamin Lemizrach. Any turns that you take should always be toward the east. So this way is west, right? And this way is east, right? We're saying this is where the keves is. So when you kind of come up on the ramp, you're going to make a turn to the right. You always have to go to the yamin, and that will take you toward the east. It's telling you make a turn from the keves that takes you to the east. So therefore, the ramp has to be on the south. Correct the Gemara. The Amos Smoil didn't say anything in the pasuk. Malasayu panis kadim. It doesn't say anything about going to the right. How do you know you go to the right? Maybe you go to the left. The mizrach. Abzak. Maybe you go to the right, to the left, to the east. In which case you'd be on the ramp would be on the north side. So Gemara, loy sakadait. Tani Rami bar Yecheskel. Yam sha'asa shloima. Yam was a type of decorative basin or a pool that not decorative that Shlomo built for the Kohanim to be taival in. Aymed al shneim aser bakar. It was placed. This basin or this pool was on top of 12 statues of oxen. Shloisha painim tzvaina. 3 of them were facing to the north, 3 of them were facing Shloisha Panim Yama, and 3 were facing to the west, Shloisha Panim Negba. I'm sorry, no, Yama is to the east. Yama
Yama's in the west.
Is the west, right. Shloisha Panim Negva, which is the south, Shloisha Panim Mizracha, and 3 were going to the east. So the order is north, west, south, and east. So north, west, south, and east. So you see that you're going again in a counterclockwise direction, and it's because when you're facing this direction, you have to go to the right. That tells you that it always has to turn to the right, toward the east.
So we're saying that the ramp is from this side, from the north.
No, from this side, from the.
We dropped that.
No, we're still saying it's coming from the south. But the way we had said it was because when you come up, you have to make a right turn to go east. You have to make a right turn when you get up, and it says to go toward the east. So you're going to make a right turn when you come up. You're going to get to the east. It must be on the south. Right? If it would be over here, you make a right turn. You'll be in the west.
Okay, so
but then we just bring a raya. But the Gemara says, how do you know that you always have to make a right turn? Where does it come from? So you say because when we describe how this pool was held up, we describe it as what was it? Where do we start from? Shloisha Painim Tzafayna. We start north, west, south, and east. So you see it's going again in a counterclockwise direction because when you face this way, we have to go to the right. So that's what we know that we always go to the right in describing. That's the direction you always turn to. It's one wouldn't think that the description of how something was built would dictate how you should turn, but that's the way the Gemara does. So Gemara, how could you learn anything from there? It's just describing how it was built. It's coming to tell you what there was there. How do you know it's telling you which direction? So Gemara, im came painim lamali. What does it says? Amid al shemos a baka shloisha painim tzafayna shloisha painim yama. Let's just say shloisha painim tzafayna u'shloisha yama u'shloisha negba. What is if they painim so many times to tell you this thing that you always go to the right? Reb Shimon Yosi ben Lakunya as Reb Yosi. I'm a higher Reb Shimon ben Yosi ben Lakunya. Shol Reb Shimon ben Yosi ben Lakunya as Reb Yosi. He asked Reb Yosi the following question: I'm a higher Reb Shimon Yochai. Reb Shimon Yochai say, "Avir yesh ben kavesh lemizbech." Was there space between the ramp and the mizbech? Means the ramp came up over here. Was there a little bit of space between them over on the top? You'd have to jump over. Amulai ati ata imekain. He said, "You're asking me this is a question. You should know this for yourself." Look for nema vasisa alesecha habasa v'hadam. The Torah says you should make your oilers of basar and dam. Ma dam bezrika, basar bezrika. It tells you, just like the dam that you zayrik on the mizbech, you throw it, so the basar that's going on the top of the mizbech also has to be, the emurim, has to be bezrika. So therefore, it has to be a space that you throw it over to get it onto the maracha, onto the fire. That's how we know there must be a little bit of space. Amaloi, he said back to him, Shani Yoma, Im B'tzah Maracha V'Zarek. Why does there have to be a space between the ramp and the mizbeach for him to throw onto the maracha? Why can it just mean he's standing on the mizbeach and he throws the basar into the fire? Amalek, Shuzarik Lamaracha Deluka, Huzarik Lamaracha She'enid Luka. Does he throw into the fire or does he throw on next to the fire? Like on the part where the fire is not burning. He certainly has to throw it into the burning pot. Also, Mishum Delayafsher. So what does the Torah have to tell you that you should throw it into the fire? You're always going to be forced to throw it into the fire because you can't the middle part of the fire is where it's burning the hottest. So you always have to throw it because you can't go into the fire. So you have to throw it a little bit. So why would the Torah have to tell you if it's just telling you stand by the side of the maracha and you throw it in? You have to do it anyway. Pragmatically you have to do it. So when the Torah tells you to throw it, a din, we'll have a lima to tell you to throw it. It must be saying something more than that. Therefore, it must mean that the ramp was a little bit set off from the mizbech and you're throwing it over that gap. Papa says a different drasha ki dam. No, you learn out from dam. You learn out from dam. Ma dam. It means don't tell me that it's just telling you to throw it into the fire. It means you throw it over the gap. Ma dam avir karka mafsika. Abasa avir karka mafsika. It's coming to tell you that there has to be a gap. It's not coming to tell you to throw it into the fire, not dictating that it's over a gap, because that would not be similar to the dam. The dam was thrown onto the side of his bech. It was passing over some airspace. So this also the pasuk must be telling you about some type of airspace, not just telling you to throw it on the top of the mizbech into the fire. Okay, we're about 7 lines down at the bottom of Samach Beis on the base. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Shnei kvasim katanim yotzim min hakevesh. I really should have brought my what do you call it? My book. So really need another another tissue box, but we'll make do. We'll make do. It's fine. Okay, so this is the mizbech, right? And then you have the keves going out from the side here. But there were two separate kvasim. There were two separate mini ramps going on both sides of the keves, because some things the shiraim you'd have to come down and put it by the side on the base. So in order for a person to go down, they didn't make them go all the way down and back. Let them go partially down, and then there was a ramp taking them down back to the side. And there was another ramp because it was the middle of the mizbeach. There was a soiviv. There was that catwalk going around the midpoint of the mizbeach to make a ramp on the other side that would go up toward that, I guess it depends where. Yeah, it would go back from the main ramp back toward that soiviv. So the two mini ramps coming off the main ramp. They would go from those onto this yisoid on the ground and the soiviv on the midpoint of the mizbech. But these mini ramps did not touch the mizbech itself, just like the main ramp we just said doesn't touch it. These are also separated by a thread, mashu. Because the Torah says saviv, and that tells you that the mizbech has to be fully around, and if you'd have this, the circumference of the mizbech would not be saviv; it would be interrupted by the ramp. He says the Torah says that the mizbech has to be squared; it has to have flat sides, and if a ramp was attached, it would no longer be flat; it would be shaped in the shape of the ramp. We need both of these psukim. If the Torah said sav and it didn't say revuah, I would think the mizbech could be round. I wouldn't know that it has to have flat sides. Because of revuah, let's say revuah, I would say maybe revuah just means it has to have flat sides, but we don't know that all the sides are equal length. Saviv, Rashi says, it means a circle. A circle has equal sides on all sides. There's no distinction between one side and the next. That tells you that this also, it doesn't have any sides, but theoretically, a circle has no different sides to it. It's telling you different sides. It's telling you this also can have different sizes of sides of the mizbech. the keves, we had this Gemara before, the ramp together with Mizbeach was 62 amas long. It's not 62, it's 64. 32 for the Mizbeach after the in Bayis Sheni, right? They expanded from 28 to 32, and 32 for the ramp. So come on, Nimsa Perech al Yisaid va'amal Saiviv. No, because the ramp went over 2 amas of the Mizbeach, because part of the Mizbeach was the Yisaid, the am that stuck out on the bottom, like here, and then over here there was another am of the Saiviv where it was sticking out. So the ramp covered over those 2 amas, so therefore it adds up to 62. All of the slopes of a ramp, shalosh amas la'ama. Generally, the rule is 3 amas for 1 amma. There were a bunch of ramps in the base of Mikdash. They always made them at this slope. Chutz mikivsei shel mizbeach, except for the ramps on the mizbeach, shahir shalosh amas umechza ve'etzba ushlish etzba ushlish. That they were 3 amas, 3.5 amas, plus a etzba and a third of an etzba. For every am it went up. It means if you count up 32 amas, keneged 10 amas high, it's not exactly 1 amma for every 3 amma, because there's an extra 2 amas. So if you divide that 2 amas by 10, it comes out to an extra amu mechza be'etzba ushlish. And the verse says, etzba b'zachrusa. This is the etzba, there's different size etzbas. This was the etzba, which was, I think, 1 etzba to every 4 tvachim. So that's the Mishnah. Menachos hayunik matzos. Now we're moving on to the next carbon. We did kachi kachim, we did kachim kalam, but now we're moving off of karbanis, and we're talking about menachos, which is a different type of zevach, different type of offering. Menachos was also kachi kachim. Menachos hayunik matzos. B'chol makam bazar. They could do the kmitza, which is equivalent to the shchita, any place in the azara, even though, as we're going to see, what would occur to you, it's a kachi kachim. All the other kachi kachim were shechted. The shechita was on the tzafin. This is anywhere in the azara. The leftover silas, or the leftover mincha, was given to the kahana to be eaten anywhere inside of the azara. L'zichrei kahuna, only for kahanim. Only the male kahanim wasn't given to their families. B'chol ma'achel, it will be cooked in any way. L'yayim v'layla at chatzais, for day and a night, until chatzais midrabanan. Amar Rabbi Loza, mincha shenikmitza b'heichel kshera. We said that mincha could be done anywhere in the zara, and we said it could also be nikmatz. He says if you bring it into the heichel, and to do the kmitza there, it's also kosher. Because we find the same thing, legabi taking out the bezichin, that the what is it called? The lechem aponim of Shabbos. Every Shabbos they would set up 12 loaves of bread on the shulchan in the heichel, and they would put on it 2 bezichin of levina, and there was a very limited avodah with this lechem aponim. The entire lechem aponim was given to the kahanim to eat. The only thing that was brought out onto the mizbech was the shnei bezichin, and the taking of those 2 bezichin is similar to the equivalent to the kmitza that we do by a mincha, which itself is equivalent to the shchita of a carbon. That's the avodah where you separate the first part of it. So in the case of a shchita, you separate the dam. In the case of a mincha, you separate the kaimitz. In the case of the bezichin, you just separate the bezichin from the lechem aponim. And that was from the heichel. So just like you could take from the heichel, you could do that separation in the heichel, you could also do the kmitza in the heichel. Maser of Yirmiyah, the kametz misham. Torah says, the gabe, the minchas chayta. Be'eviel b'nei Aaron ha'koyanim. The person brings this, it's not talking about it, I'm sorry, it's talking about a regular mincha. You bring it to the koyanim. The kametz misham malay kumtzai and the kohen then takes a kaimetz from it over there. Misalto mishalm al kol levonesev vehiktar kaimetz akrosa mizvecha isha reich v'chayich Hashem. So it says, "Kametz mishami." The kohen takes a kmitza there. Imakum sharagli azar amdis. So it's talking about how the zar, the Yisrael, brings his mincha, and it's the kohen takes it from there, meaning the place where the zar brought it, which has to be a place that the zar can stand. So again, this is something that always bothers you, Rafal. You're always bothered, where can the zar go in? So the zar can go into the azara. There are parts of the azara that he didn't go into, but he was allowed technically into the azara. He couldn't go into the ulam and the hechel. He wasn't allowed to go. That was only for kahanim. So, they had the Ezes Noshim, right? First is the Ezes Noshim. Look at that book. There's the Ezes Noshim, then there's the Ezes Yisrael, and then there's the Ragli Kahanim. So I don't know if it was Minat Torah or not. I just don't. Maybe we'll get to it somewhere in Kachim. It probably has it at the beginning of Chelik Aleph of the. I'm sure there's a picture in Chelik Aleph of the art scroll. The first section they have at the beginning, a picture. I'm sure it describes which part was where. But the Israelim were allowed to come in to the Azar. And so that's how we know that. I'm sorry. Just so you see that it's only the place that the makam that the Zar can go, not in the Heichel. So how could you say you could do kmitza in the Heichel? But meaning this is just the end of the brisa, not relevant to what we're talking about. How do we know if the kohen mistakenly did kmitza with his left hand, that he could just put back what he was kaimetz and redo it again? Tells you that if he was kaimetz incorrectly, he can go be kaimetz again by putting back what he took out and redoing it. Ikad Amri. So anyway, back to our question. We had said originally that Rabbi Loza had said, because we learned out from Silik Bazichan, that you could do kmitza of a mincha in the Heichel, but we just said that you could do kmitza in the makom that the Zar can stand, which is not in the Heichel. Ikadami hu ma'asav lahu mafarkal ikadami amalei. Rabbi Akiva Rabbi Yirmiyah. Either was Rabbi Lazar answered himself, or Rabbi Akiva answered to Rabbi Yirmiyah. Bar Tachlifa. You Bar Tachlifa, I guess his name was Rabbi Yirmiyah Bar Tachlifa. Azbralach. I'm going to explain it to you. Lo nitzrucha lahachshar kol azara kula. That which we learned from the pasuk, that it said, "B'kametz misham," that you do the kmitza in the azara. It's coming to tell you that the entire azara is kosher for kmitza, which is what we said in our Mishnah. Why do we need a pasuk to tell you that? An oil is just like the oil needs tzafin, you do shchita b'tzafin, so too the mincha needs its kmitza b'tzafin. It's fact the Gemara, no. Why would I have thought that? Mala oil shechein kalal. Oil is more chamer. I would not learn from an oil that needs to be b'tzafin that a mincha needs to be b'tzafin, because oil has a chumrah that it's fully burnt, which chatas part of it is eating. She says, no, learn that from chatas. Let's learn that from chatas. The chatas is not fully consumed. Part of it goes to the kehanim. So I can't learn that from chatas because there's a chumrah that's come to mechaper and krisis, which neither a mincha is not. So the Gemara, let's learn that from asham. And asham is both. It's part of it is eaten by the kehanim, as well as it's not brought for chayve krisis. So the Gemara, mal asham shchei minei damim. No. Asham is different from mincha because asham you have a shchita with dam and you zayrik the dam. How could you compare dam to kmitza? So let's learn out with a ma'atzat from all of them. Gemara says this teretz that we said by asham really could have answered oila and chatas as well. That they're all minei damim. You can't learn out from minei damim to a mincha. Ella. So therefore, what do we need a pasuk for to tell you that it should be? You were trying to answer that the reason why we said that kametz misham is to tell you that you could do it anywhere in the azara. You could do the kmitza anywhere in the azara. Why would I have thought otherwise? Because you can't learn out There'd be no reason to think it should be just B'tzafon. The Torah says you have to bring part of the Avodah because you have to bring it to the Mizbech. You have to bring the Kaimitz to the Mizbech. And then you take the Kaimitz. I would have thought, not that it has to be B'tzafon, but it has to be, it's similar to the Hagasha, which we're going to see on the next blot, next Amud, that has to be B'davka on the southwestern side, the southwestern corner. Maybe the Kmitz also has to be done in the same place, because we have the Torah puts them together, Vigisha and Veherimen. Kamash and that's what we need the pasuk to tell you anywhere in the Azara. But Einachanami, you could also do it in the Heichel. When the Torah, when we have this pasuk, it's just to tell you that you're not restricted to the southwestern corner, but it's not telling you can't do it in the Heichel. Amar Rav Yechanan, Shlomim sheshachtam beheichel. Similar question, right? We were talking about doing a kmitza in the heichel. Now we're talking about a shlomim that you want to shecht in the heichel. We said the shlom could be done anywhere in the azar. It's not a kachik. It's a kachik column. It's done anywhere in the azar. What about if you decided to do in the heichel? So he said ksher. Shenem avshachtu oisei pesach hayil mayid. The Torah says you should shecht it opposite the ayil mayid. V'lo yeh tafel, which we understand to mean the whole azar. If you're saying you should do it opposite the entrance to the oil mayid, which is the heichel, certainly the oil mayid itself is even better than opposite its entrance, right? So if you have to do it in opposite the opening to the heichel is even better. How do we know if the Ovdei Kechavim were besieging the Beis HaMikdash and they're surrounding the whole Azar? The Kohanim could go into the Heichel to be protected from all the arrows and spears flying over the wall. They go into the Heichel and they could eat the kachim inside. They don't have to expose themselves in the Azar. They could eat inside the kachim. The Torah says you should eat it in the Kodesh Kadashim. Is that pasuk? It says so that tells you they could even eat it in the heichel. V'amai. I was asking, what do I need a pasuk to tell you that? What do I need a special pasuk over there to tell you that you could eat it in the Kodesh Kadashim? Let's say the same kavachayim. If you eat it opposite the ayil mayid, you could certainly eat it in the opening to the ayil mayid. You could certainly eat it in the ayil mayid itself. So come on, haki hashto. You can't learn out from there by achila. Hasam avoid the adam mayid v'makom rabbi amin and lo yehei tafel cham minayika. A person is a very fine thing. You're doing avodah. You're serving the Rebbeinu Shalom by shechting an animal. So if you could do it opposite the ayil mayid, you can certainly do it in the ayil mayid. But achila the ein adam eichel b'makom rabbi. It's not, if you're listening to a drasha, you're going to the Shabbos drasha from the Rav, you can't sit and nash in the back. It's not appropriate. So you can't say a kavachaymer. Certainly, if you could do it opposite the heichel, you could also do it in the heichel. You wouldn't say such a thought. Let's see the Mishnah. They start davening. Chatas ha'oif. So chatas ha'oif is brought for a number of different things, and chatas, we said that a chatas, you bring the dam, you place the dam on the kronos on the top, but the chatas ha'oif is distinct, and it's brought on the bottom part. Hayanasis al keren jeraymis marabas. It was placed on the keren, on the horn that was on the southwestern side. It was kosher in any place, but this was the designated place. The Gemara is going to explain what this is coming to tell you. There were three things that went on that corner. Milmata on the bottom, and three other things were on the top, meaning there were three things that were underneath the chut hasikra in the midpoint of the mizbeach, and three things on top of that, and three things on bottom. Milmata, On the bottom, like we said, it wasn't mamish on the Karen, it was on this chatas oif, the dam went on the bottom part of the mizbech. It's a little strange. Right? The chatas was the only thing that went on top of the only thing that was brought on the actual Karen, the chatas of the behema. The chatas oif was on the bottom, and the oila oif, which the oila itself was on the bottom, its dam went on the top. So it's a little confusing. But the chatas oif was on the bottom. And you approached it, like we said earlier, that you brought the kmitza, the kaimitz, to that same southwestern corner. The shiar adam that was also brought on the bottom, that you poured out the shiar adam on the bottom on that southwestern corner. Mil Mailon, and on top was nisach hayayin v'mayim, the pouring out of yayin and mayim, the yayin of by all the nesachim of the different kabbanas and the mayim on sukkahs. The oila saif, and the oila saif was on the top part, like we said before. Shiraba b'mizrach, but they put it the southwestern corner. It was really supposed to be in the east, but there wasn't enough room in the east. They brought it there. Whatever was brought on the mizbeach was brought toward the right. It went up the ramp and went toward the right. Makif of Yarden derech smal. It went, made a circuit, and it came down on the left side. Chutz min ha'oila, except for the oila, the oila went to the. Since it was supposed to be on the southwestern side, it was on this corner. You couldn't go. You didn't tell you to go all the way around. You went up the ramp and went straight there. We'll explain why later. And I'm sorry for these three things that we said. So that all the three things that we said that go in this corner. And those you went up and you came right down the way you came up. You didn't have to go backwards because I mean you'd be going to the left, and you didn't make you go the long way around. They'll stop you.